Good morning, Genius fam. It is Tuesday the 13th, which is not as spooky as Friday the 13th, but it is a day and it is on the 13th. And I'm super excited to see all of you, especially because it means that you survived the weekend. And that's very exciting. And it also means that you're probably working. And I don't know if you're procrastinating. Nobody's told me if they like to tune in for procrastination purposes or because you want your brain to be swole, but I'm going to pretend like it's both. My name is Lonnie Rosales. I am the Chief Operating Officer at the American Genius, which is a news org for entrepreneurs. And you may also know us from our online groups such as Austin Digital Jobs, which is where we're headquartered, Remote Digital Jobs, which is where we're headquartered. Just kidding, you can't be headquartered in a remote. And the American Genius, and we have our offline events, Big Ass Social Happy Hour, and y'all might have heard we might be adding some new events in 2023 and bringing back some older events that we haven't done since before COVID. We're really hoping to do some ADJ mixers, so that would be super great. We have a venue. We just got to get everybody to stop hiring freezes so they can start hiring again. I think that's coming in Q1. But today we have a lot to go over. My top 3 today are Twitter, AI art, and some crypto stuff. And no, I'm not a crypto bro. I'm not going to explain any of it to you, but we're going to talk about kind of the FTX effect. And apparently they got homeboy in the Bahamas last night and popped him. So I guess he will be testifying in person. We'll see. But I'd love to know kind of where you're tuning in from, what you're drinking. And while you type that out in the comments, remember, if you have any problems on the platform that you're watching from, you can always go to the other platforms. We're streaming on, this broadcast is on Facebook/The American Genius, Twitch.tv/The American Genius. You can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, all the places. All the places. We're not broadcasting to Mars yet because Elon Musk hasn't really gone there. So not in Mars. This show is unavailable in Mars. Yeah, Michelle. Yeah, I think it's this weather. I am exhausted. I even put like those like gold eye patches under your eyes. I don't remember the like 8K something or other. It didn't help. I'm tired too. It's in the air. But I'm going to roll this intro because we have a lot to go over, especially with Twitter, as we do. And then we will get started. And after the intro, I'm allowed to cuss. And then you're allowed to cuss too. But not yet. No cussing until after the intro. Let's do this. Welcome to AG Live. I'm your host, Lonnie Rosales, Chief Operating Officer at the American Genius News Network, reaching entrepreneurs, startups, real estate pros, plus other job creators and job seekers alike, all with a nerdy tech flair. Let your hair down. We're allowed to cuss. Let's do this. Let your hair down. We're allowed to cuss. That was me doing my voice. I know. It's always weird to hear your own voice. I think there are people out there that surely like their voice, but for the most part, most of us hear our voices back and go, "Oh God, why? Why do you sound like that? You sound stupid." Okay, first up, let's just get the Twitter stuff out of the way because I'm pretty dumbfounded about everything that's going on. Now, did you hear about the Dave Chappelle show over the weekend? And Elon Musk booed, apparently. Okay, so if you haven't heard of it, I'm going to play it really quickly maybe. And okay, hold up. YouTube, calm down. I'm going to share it with you guys so you can actually see it. If I can figure out my stuff. I'm pushing the wrong buttons because as we've all agreed upon already, we're all tired. But I love being here, so I'm not too tired to do a good show for you. Okay, we're going to watch this. Hopefully you can hear it. I think I have it set up properly. But this is just a really quick video of what happened when Dave Chappelle brought Elon Musk in San Francisco, and I think that context is important.
I don't want to hurt you. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for the richest man in the world. Cheers and booze, I see. Controversy, buddy. It sounds like some of them people you fired are in the audience. All these people are booing, and I'm just pointing out the obvious. You have terrible seats, and I understand. All coming from way up there at the last minute. Non-planning is boo.
So I think Dave Chappelle handled it with grace. Obviously, that's not what they were expecting. It was kind of dumb to do that in San Francisco. Like, what did you expect? You fired a bunch of people and everyone hates you. So what? What? But I liked how Dave Chappelle handled it. I mean, it's a comedy show. He made fun of everything and kind of kept everything moving. But I think these are the reason I'm talking about this on AG Live is not because I think it's funny, which let's face it, it is kind of funny, but because A, it's dumb to do it in San Francisco. Know your audience. B, Dave Chappelle handled it really gracefully. And well, not gracefully, but like as a comedian should, instead of being like, you guys, stop. Or, hey, yeah, you're right. But these are the kind of things that I think will inevitably give Elon Musk the fuel and excuse to move Twitter headquarters to Austin. And I think they're already showing signs of that. I don't know if y'all have heard, but they're doing they're currently having a fire sale on their surplus office supplies. They're selling off like desks and stuff that they're not using since a lot of workers are still remote, even though he said no. So, for those of you tuning in that aren't aware, we're headquartered in Austin, and there's a big, huge Tesla factory here. And Elon is already here a lot, not these days because he's in San Francisco. But I think whenever you are the CEO of multiple and owner of multiple companies, it's probably a good idea to have them all in the same place. So I think we all knew that was an inevitability. But when you have an entire city booing your very presence, I think from an ego standpoint, you probably end up saying, "Okay, I'm out of here." Like, why am I paying this much for everybody? Why am I paying this much for, all of this? Now, what that doesn't take into account, of course, is the reason companies are there is because there's an ecosystem, and when you exit the ecosystem, you no longer have access to that ecosystem. But not to poo poo Austin, but we are kind of like a San Francisco knockoff when it comes to tech. So the culture has changed such that it is very much like San Francisco. The talent pool is very deep in Austin. So I wouldn't be surprised. But I wanted to point out the Dave Chappelle thing because I think it's a visual manifestation of what a lot of people don't know is going on, which is there is a sincere, direct rejection of Elon Musk, especially in the tech community, especially in California, super especially in San Francisco. A bunch of people got laid off. Everybody's affected in some way, shape, or form. Um, but that aside, I spent Friday, for those of you that missed the Friday broadcast, we spent the entire time talking about the Twitter files. It's at the root of current headlines. And I'm really, really concerned. I wanted to talk about it a little bit today because a lot of people are still calling it a nothing burger. And I know that feels good, but that's really worrying me because to me, and y'all, anybody who's watched this broadcast for more than 5 seconds, you know that I think that censorship is a huge problem, and you might be surprised at how I vote. I'm not going to tell you because it's none of your business, but because I'm old enough to remember that. But I'm really concerned about people calling this a nothing burger. And I chatted with a friend yesterday in private. Who said that it's a nothing burger. And I had specific questions. So I asked her, like, which of the Twitter files released has been the most interesting or like surprising, or, how do you feel about enforcing secret rules in private without any transparency? And she didn't have any answer. And I was really frustrated by that. You can't call it a nothing burger. And I asked, which, like, did you get bored of the Twitter files at some point? Like, most people read like the first set and then the second and kind of trailed off from there. She hadn't read any of them for herself, not one. And I understand digging through like the first Twitter dump and the second and then kind of getting the gist and like making up your mind about it. But she could only quote one or two tweets, and it was the same few tweets that all cable news orgs on both sides have been referencing. So I'm really worried. I'm worried that we have become these kind of like adorable little sheep that lack independent thought. Not you, obviously. You're here. You obviously think independently. We're independents. This is becoming really worrisome. And what's equally troublesome is how the traditional press is treating this. And I'm sincerely worried because one cable news org is like foaming at the mouth nonstop, but the rest are mostly ignoring the Twitter files. And I don't think either method is healthy. Um, but here's my main worry. Not my main, this is one of my many worries. I'm worried that by not covering any of it and calling it a nothing burger, that traditional news orgs will be lumped in as complicit with Twitter's corporate clear-cut censoring. And credible news orgs could be painted by history as having helped Twitter, gone along with it, and then ignoring the nothing burger. And so I really think that there are, credible news organizations that have been around for a long time that are calling it a nothing burger. I think they're going to be lumped in with Twitter, and they're going to be lumped in guilty by association if they keep doing that. You have to dig into the files, you have to look at them. If you read them yourself without any news org reading them to you or for you or picking the two out that you need to know, it's really clear that there are private rules that are enforced one way and not another. And they got into the Slack. That's obviously what Elon has done. And also, I'll tell you, when I talked to my friend about the Twitter files, she didn't know that the source was Slack. And I was like, then you obviously have not read any of these. Like, these are Slack messages, especially the third Twitter dump about how they started to get rid of a sitting president. So I really do worry about calling it a nothing burger. It feels good. I get that. But I think that those of you that are saying it's really isn't a big deal, this is nothing burger, please, I implore you to go read the Twitter files yourself. Don't let somebody else analyze them for you. Just read them yourself. And it'll feel good because you'll be like, yeah, screw that guy. Like I don't want his stuff out there. But then put yourself in that position of what if it was the person I want for any political office or like leading any organization or financial or whatever. But that's a problem. I think that traditional news orgs are going to be lumped in as complicit. But just because I'm naturally cynical of establishment press and the establishment in general doesn't mean that they don't serve a really important societal purpose. It doesn't mean that everyone should be a cynical jerk like me. I see a problem emerging, and I still don't trust Elon not to just flip a switch and this all becomes performance art. And I don't think he has allegiance to any side or anyone but himself. So no one should hang their professional or political hat on him. I do believe that. He is a loose cannon for everyone. And I've been uncertain as to his motivations and what he'll do, but so far it does appear that he's wholeheartedly in investigation mode. Many acquisitions are kind of like farming. You sometimes have to burn a field to yield better crops. I get that. Right now, he's about to be in burn mode, but he's not even burning the field yet. He's just investigating the field, which I get you have to do. But if anyone can walk and chew gum, the dude that's the CEO of like 20 companies can. So if it's really a town square, here's what we suggest: turn off all the shadow bans, completely remove the blue check marks as an option, burn the field, start over again. Now, obviously, you can't if you don't have any staff. I get that. There's no enforcement. But he said also that he'll be releasing all of those dormant handles. Once upon a time, Twitter, I don't remember what it was, and y'all may know, but Twitter said that it would be like if an account was dormant for 2 years, then you can have that account. Now, that's a good question. If you want to read the files for yourself, you can literally just look up hashtag Twitter files and find the original. But I think the most credible place is Twitter slash uh, Barry Weiss, and she also points to the other people. So they're doing basically one a day, and I think there's a couple left, and there's about 5 independent reporters that are getting access. And each day there's a different, I hate the word dump, but there's a document dump. So Barry Weiss is a good point for that. It's just Twitter, hashtag Twitter files. And Matt Taibbi as well, but I'm not as familiar with him, so that's why I'm pointing you to Barry Weiss. So Elon said that he will release all of those dormant handles. And that's something Twitter promised they would do. And you can even apply. If you can see an account is dormant, you can apply to take over that account, especially if it's never been used, which we all know that everybody went on and parked names. So one account that I originally wanted was created a couple days before I got on in 2006, and it never tweeted. I've applied for it several times. There's never ever a response. And I'm sure that that user was even counted as active and probably has been, but because all they have to do is log in and then it's an active, even if they don't tweet anything. You can lurk, it's fine. But it's good that that Elon Musk has committed to do that, but why wait? Send out the warning emails now. And you may say, Lonnie, he might have. You don't know. Okay, sure. But I have some accounts, silly accounts that we've set up that I know are dormant, that we haven't logged into in years, haven't sent anything in years. For example, I'm sure there's some floating out like South by Southwest panels, 2010. I didn't update it to 2011 or use it again. I just stopped using it because South by was over. So I haven't gotten any emails, and all of my emails, all the emails, corporate and otherwise, all funnel to the same place. So that's annoying. I want him to get rid of actual bot accounts. I know he said he is and will, but I'm still hearing from him a whole lot of we're going tos. What do it? What's the holdup? He's obviously capable, so I don't understand. But he needs to create a public set of rules and enforce them evenly. Don't say you're going to give transparency so we can see our account status and where we lie. Say what the rules are and enforce them evenly. That's what has gotten Twitter and soon to be Facebook, Google, everybody else in trouble, is that the rules are not public, the enforcement's not public. Elon Musk seems to be the only one probably willing to go against the flow. And yeah, it's really easy to say we're going to do all this stuff, but you don't have any employees. So yeah. So create the public set of rules, enforce them evenly. Don't say you're going to give transparency. Don't say you're going to do all this. Just do it. And then, or say you're going to do it. But he's not even in like burn the field mode. It's still an investigation mode. He's setting traps for employees so he knows who he can trust. I get it. But I don't understand the flirtation with the I'm gonna instead of I did. And he's shown his capacity. If you watched on Friday, or no, this was last week. Last week, everybody came in and there were these weird, they're now calling them nap pods, which seemed like kind of a gentle thing. But there were these weird, like paltry motel room looking spots that popped up on several floors of the Twitter headquarter building. There was no discussion, no announcement, nothing. It was just there. So that's a little tiny example, but it is proof that he is fully capable of like, I have an idea, I want to change something, I want to do it. Like even if it's tangible, he can do it. So just quit saying we're gonna, just do them. One of my fears is that the pendulum may swing too far. And I am still salty about having applied for a blue check mark originally for safety purposes and being rejected. I don't know. I think Ben will buy a blue mark. I don't think they should have any check marks at all, period. I'm willing to pay to use the service, but I think that leveling the playing field, if you really are a town square, if you really are a public town square, nobody's more important than anybody. Lay it out. So one of my fears is the pendulum would swing too far, and it turns out that it kind of has. Musk has already allegedly shadow banned the account that publicizes his personal jet's travel dossier and plans, which you're probably thinking, yeah, that's unsafe. But there are tons of other accounts that are doing that in the name of climate change that are like monitoring where celebs are traveling, how often their jets are going, where they're going, things like that. So if it's okay for them, but not okay for him, that's a problem. I don't care, but it seems like a safety issue to publicize any person's travel plans. But this is another slight hint at dictator behavior, rules for thee, but not for me. You can say whatever you want against my enemy, but not against me. That's literally what has gotten us here. That's wild, right? So first and foremost, what is the cure for Elon's ills? First and foremost, set the rules of the road, make them public. An account status is transparent instead of hidden in some private Slack group with like 5 employees. Second, he absolutely needs to hire an internal comms team and begin talking about his vision internally. This cannot be a one-man show. It can't be an ebbing and flowing of like hidden enforcement and irregular, uneven enforcement of the rules. That's what got us here in the first place. And he's already doing the things that he said he was there to fight against. So people left Twitter, employees, when he challenged them to, because he treated it as a hostile takeover. And it was. I mean, supposedly he tried to back out and the court ordered him to move forward with the purchase. So Maybe it is hostile. Maybe he did change his mind. He never communicated a vision internally of Twitter being a shining city on a hill, a home for public discourse, a platform to save lives by getting around dictators in a time of war. But there never was a vision communicated. Instead, there was a work your ass off or get out. And everybody was like, okay, because there was no reason. He didn't give them a reason. And so there's no vision. There's a vision. It's just like up in his head. He hasn't shared it. There's no team commitment. This is just a no-brainer. Share your vision internally, sell it internally, then it can ripple out. But there's been no vision communication. That's been a really big problem. And he's going to continue to struggle hiring, especially if he stays in San Francisco. So the first cure, what was that? Set the rules of the road, make them public, apply evenly. Second, hire your damn comms team. Third, quit just investigating. Burn down the field already. Start planting. You can investigate and burn simultaneously. Get rid of the blue check marks altogether. Get rid of all bans. Start anew. Get rid of all practices that favor celebrities over the common person if you really believe it's a town square. Anything short of that proves that that was just talk. You never believed it was a town square. Town squares are where we all come together in a common space, not where humans go to be some part of a weird caste system, which is what it is right now, where some are higher up on the food chain than others. That's how all social media works. And if it really is a public town square, that's not how a public town square works. We're all in one room together. We take turns at the microphone. That's pretty simple. So I'm starting to get a little frustrated. I had high hopes for the potential for Twitter, but right now I'm just feeling like there's a whole lot of talk, a whole lot of I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Hire some people, do it. Hire remote workers. People from other places will work for you just fine. Get the chip off your shoulder that remote is impossible, which we're going to talk about remote work here in a minute. So that's a lot going on at Twitter. We're going to be following it because I think it's important that you know why. Because there's a human out there with the money to back up the idea that free speech should exist. I'm not feeling super great about that right now with the uneven application that he's already shown that, well, if you track my jet, I'm going to shadow ban your account. But if you track their jets, it's fine. That's what got us here already. So I don't like that. But I do think free speech is critically important. And so anybody that comes to town saying, hey, let's have some real free speech, you're going to have our attention. Yeah, like we hope. That's so weird. It's not showing your name. That's so strange. Usually if you're logged into LinkedIn, it'll show like your beautiful face and name. And yeah, I do want to admit I am still hopeful. But I am a little tired of just hearing the, maybe this will happen. Maybe someday we'll do this. I think we're going to do that. Just burn the field down and start planting. Quit just investigating. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. I do hope that he can create a playbook for other social media outlets because they're not going to create it for themselves. They don't really mean that they want to get regulated. They're saying that because they know that they won't be. And we'll talk about that here in a second. Okay, it is time to take a sip, and we're going to move on to AI art, which I have big, big feelings about. So, AI art is getting nasty. You want to talk about it? Because it's getting nasty. And by nasty, I don't mean like they're fighting about it. I mean literal, inappropriate for work type stuff. So I'm going to share my little screen here with you so you can see the story you can read in full on The American Genius. Ever heard of it? You've heard of it because you're here. So we're going to talk about some porn stuff. I'm sorry if you're at work or if your kids are around. I'll keep it clean. I mean, we're going to talk about it, but we talked last week about the growing rejection of AI art. It was inevitable as AI art went mainstream, which it almost nearly has thanks to the novelty of apps like Lensa. And novelty is always how tech goes mainstream. Like if it's not like fun and self-serving, like it doesn't ever go anywhere. But Lensa, you would pay a few bucks and it auto-generates pictures of you and like painting-looking things that are better looking than you ever could be. So it's now everyone's profile pics and we're in permanent catfish hell. This is great. But Stephanie Dominique wrote over here on The American Genius. This is what the story looks like, so you can go grab it. I'm not going to regurgitate her story, but I'm going to tell you that now there is I'm going to tell you the name of it here in a minute, but there's most AI art, you can't do any porn, nothing inappropriate. Um, it's just not possible. So we use Midjourney. That's my favorite one. If you type in flesh, for example, because I did a story about hands and feet, and I wanted to generate images, and I wanted it to be flesh colored human hands that are definitely human. That was my prompt, but it kicked it back because of the word flesh. It refused to do anything with the prompt. Like it didn't even try it and then censor it. It was just, it said, the word flesh is banned. Circumventing this filter to violate our rules may result in your access being revoked. And what it doesn't say is even if you're a paid member. So I learned early on that you absolutely couldn't generate anything inappropriate with it. Like I tried all sorts of funny stuff to get it to like do naughty stuff, but it just wouldn't. One of the things that I was stuck on doing, and I tried like a million different ways and I couldn't do it. And I don't mean a million because I would have been banned, but I did try it in a bunch of different ways over time. So, in the spirit of Edward Scissorhands, yeah, hands and feet are wild. In the spirit of Edward Scissorhands, I asked it to paint me a picture of Bill Clinton wiener hands. I just thought it'd be funny. Just come on. I just wanted to send my husband a picture of Bill Clinton wiener hands, but it didn't work out, and I just could not get it to paint Bill Clinton wiener hands, and which was a bummer. I thought it would be funny. I don't have the Photoshop skills to make it happen, and I'm not going to. But enter unstable diffusion. And again, you can read all about unstable diffusion here, but there's a tool called Unstable Diffusion. It's a pay to play AI option for people who really want to create naughty materials like Bill Clinton wiener hands. It's raised many an eyebrow, but they only generate around $4,000 a month so far, so it's definitely not mainstream in any way, shape, or form. And there are lots of ethical questions about AI art in general, but specifically porn. They say it's you're stealing art. So if you were to like do a painting in the style of so and so, you're stealing that person's style and their art and their intellectual property in theory. But the idea of deepfakes leaking out of porn is, I think, a really important aspect in that world leaders can be put into compromising positions by lay people. So it's not just like Photoshop experts. It's like any dum dum can pay a few bucks to go to Unstable Diffusion and have a picture of Putin doing something gay and like literally blow up the internet. What it means is that press and intelligence agencies will have to do actual due diligence before making moves. But the reason I'm not super worried, I'm going to tell you why I'm not super worried, is because in the mid 90s, my father, as I've told you in other episodes, is an artist. In the mid 90s, Photoshop existed and it had already been around for a little while. He spent an evening, we were hanging out, and he turned the character of Doom into a little girl, and it was very convincing. It was fun as a kid to like watch dad turn like beefy Doom guy into a little girl, still in like the mask and everything, but you could see through it a little bit. And there's a little girl, small features, like just how long it took him to tweak that. It was hours of just like playing with this one image. So the reason I'm telling you about my dad turning Doom into into a little girl, and I don't remember the character's name. What's the main character's name in Doom? I don't remember, but it was a big, huge, beefy guy with a gun. Manipulating imagery is nothing new. I just gave you an example in the 90s when most people still didn't even know what Photoshop was. It's just done with little skill and it's done quickly now with sometimes free, sometimes with just a few bucks. And yes, prompt creation is a skill and art in and of itself, but the time and investment in creating questionable materials is now mitigated. So the point is, if you see Bill Clinton wiener hands in the wild, I'm really sorry. It's probably somebody will figure it out. Okay, so we're going to talk about marketing in 2023, which is the future. Not the far off future, but the future. And guess what? Pantone revealed the color of the year for 2023. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to show you it. Please hold. Yeah, I think his name was Doom Guy. Did he not? It wasn't like Duke Nukem or anything. He didn't have a name. But Pantone's color of the year sets the tone, and I don't know the full history behind how. Besides those giant color wheels, like I said, my dad was an artist, so we always had the Pantone color wheels. Like if you haven't seen them, it's like this big, huge stack of like cards with every single color, and they're Pantone codes, and then inevitably they're hex codes. on other wheels. But Pantone kind of sets the tone and determines what the cool stuff is. But it's also by observation. So it's not just a prediction of like we decide like the devil wears Prada, we decide what it's going to be. It is an observation of this is where the trends are headed. So, what is it? Let's do some scrolling, Lonnie. It's this magenta. It's called Viva Magenta. What do you think of it? Beautiful? 1980s, 1990s. It's giving me some mauve. I don't know. This one's not as some of the times their choices are like teal. That's not what they call any color, but like sometimes the choices are a little much. But this is interesting that this they suspect this will be the most used color in 2023. And why do they suspect that? Studies, as mentioned. But if you're in marketing in any way, shape, or form, you will probably be using versions of this, which is, as you note, it's not like a cold red. It is a warmer tone, which is interesting to me because in recent years, some of the tones, not the purples, but like some of the greens and blues have been kind of cold and cool. So we're warming up a little bit. Maybe it's we're emerging from a global pandemic. I don't know. The picture that they use is creepy, but Viva Magenta is the color that will be used in 2023, and you need to know that. Also, you can read in full. Yeah, it's bold. I do like it. It's not just in like marketing, but you'll see a lot more anytime Pantone's color comes out, you'll see a lot more use of that color in like handbags, fashion, things like that. Even though they're so forward looking. Whatever. It's what you'll see on the shelves, not on the runway, just for clarity's sake. But let's talk about what's in store for marketing for 2023 because Jennifer Nall wrote a lot of predictions, and you can go read all of them on the American Genius. That's what the story looks like right there. But what's really interesting is it's not just Twitter. I know it seems like that's all that's going on, but Twitter's going to obviously make some changes. Is there any way to predict what's going on? Maybe, but Jennifer says that the prediction is that Twitter could expand offerings to professional profiles, maybe making an easier way to network. LinkedIn rakes in the cash by having employment opportunities. Twitter could theoretically do that. Um, there was a startup years ago that tried to make not tried to, but made threads of Twitter. Twitter decided finally to adopt that. There was another startup that created groups for Twitter, and you would sign in with your Twitter account. And a lot of that was tweeted out, but it is possible that some of the grouping and private conversation function could come to Twitter. I would really like to see that. It is a reason that I have not used Twitter in a long time. It is just kind of a throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. It's just so loud and there's no real purpose. But if there were groupings, instead of just saying follow and talk with hashtag blah, blah, blah for like HR chat or whatever, I don't want to, no, I don't even want to be thrown in with all of that. So it is possible that with some of the different changes at Twitter, we could get some grouping. I don't know. What do y'all think? Would you even use groups or is that just such a Facebook thing? So on Facebook, Jennifer suggests that there might be small ways that the metaverse could be more integrated into Facebook. So if you are using an avatar in the metaverse, that may also become, in theory, your Facebook profile picture, or they could have avatar profile pictures. We'll see. Like right now in the metaverse, you can create a custom avatar to interact, but we predict that there's more to come on that. We'll see. But a lot of the predictions pertain, and you can read about all these, but a lot of the predictions pertain to the metaverse. That seems to be where Facebook is putting a lot of their time, money, and attention. And can that impact the way Facebook works? Yeah, maybe. I also suspect, and this isn't part of our story, but I suspect that Facebook will be impacted by whatever goes on at Twitter. So I think that we'll see a lot of changes at Facebook as kind of a, not hashtag me too, but a like I'm a follower me too. Facebook and Twitter have always done that to each other. Oh, you're doing that? Oh, me too. We're doing that too. So we'll see. Regarding Instagram, Instagram's made a lot of, and for those of you that don't know, Facebook owns Instagram, but Instagram's already made a lot of changes this year. They've changed the priority that they've given to short-term videos to compete with TikTok. And so if you think about it, Facebook probably won't pick a lot of this up because they own a TikTok competitor. So I don't think you'll see the short form video um, be more prioritized on Facebook next year. But video still is really important for brands. So our suspicion in our story is that Instagram will still kind of just try more to be like TikTok. But we'll see. Theoretically, there could be some GIF generation options, not gift, but GIF. And if you say GIF, you're wrong. I don't care what the creator says. I don't say thank Jod or anything like that. It's GIF. But there could be some more 3D. I also think that since live streaming for shopping is so important, that'll probably become a lot more relevant on Instagram. And this isn't part of our story, but I think you'll see more people making choices between Instagram and TikTok instead of being on both. And so it's possible that 2023 we could see some refined demographics, more specific demographics. So, for example, I realized a while ago that anybody that I'm following on TikTok, most of them are recycling those on Instagram Reels, but Instagram Reels aren't being recycled on TikTok. So I can see on Instagram Reels most of anything that I want to see on TikTok and what I want to see on Instagram. So one app does both and doesn't invade my privacy and read every single text of mine like TikTok does. So I think seeing people make choices and say, okay, I'm on TikTok because Instagram's old people, or I'm on Instagram because I can see both, or whatever. I think you'll see more people making choices. But shopping has already been determined to be a huge portion of it. Have you ever bought anything on Instagram? I don't ever mean to, but I'm scrolling and I'm like, oh, I know I need that. Like yesterday, I got that. I don't remember, it used to be called GAC or something, and it was in like a bottle, and you'd squish the gel or whatever, and it'd go. It was like fart in a can. Do y'all remember that? Now they have refined that technology to be a cleaner. So you put this jelly, it's like a glob. You put it on your keyboard and press it down and pull it up, and it pulls up all the dirt. I got it for my car. That's what, because I like car detailing Instagram videos because I'm weird. Because we keep our car, I keep the car super clean. I'm pretty obsessed over like keeping it very, very clean. But it's this gel stuff. Anyways, I bought it on Instagram because I saw like a car wash Instagram, or not a car wash, but a car detailing Instagram about it. That was just this week. Shopping, we get sucked into these things, and it's not the inorganic ads. It's the, oh, that's a cool video. I wish I could do that. Yeah, it's for more than just making fart noises, Sam, even though that's my favorite part, which of course, what did you think as I did as soon as I opened the jar of it? I wish I had it in here. I just removed it from this room this morning. But yeah, it's fun. But where I'm going with that is one of the predictions that I think is very easy to make is that organic shopping opportunities will continue to dominate Instagram, TikTok, and demonstrations that are polished and professional are not doing as well as seeing kind of a video in passing of somebody using something and it's cool. Instead of selling it, they're just using it. And you're like, oh, now I need to go buy this stupid thing. And you do. Or, somebody's showing how their house smells good and now you got to buy that stupid product. But I think that the day of polish on video is the quality of the video is supposed to be good, but having like a polished ad is not as successful. Now, having specific ads, of course, is still part of it. But okay, let's talk about Twitter. Nope, not Twitter, TikTok. I got Twitter on the brain, you guys. Um, it, they're saying that with ad budgets, the power of an influencer, like one of those girls that like lays in a tub and is like, I'm drinking this tea. Don't you want to be sexy and drink like hot tea as well? Get this $80 box of tea that took us 10 cents to make. But I think that there's more of an organic movement. And so that is really difficult for a lot of brands to try and execute. But that's what we're going to see in 2023 is more of that. What I do think we're going to see, what I predict for 2023 is how the money flows is going to change. I don't know who will start it. It might be Twitter, But I think that the day of all of the platforms being free to use, I think they're going to start Amazoning it to where there's a free tier and then a paid tier. And I think 2023 is going to be the year of that. Yeah, Sam often is probably in a bathtub with hot tea, being a beautiful woman saying, "Buy my tea." That's my best Kardashian impersonation is, "You guys, buy my tea." I'm super good at it. But 2023, I think, is going to be a little bit of a shakeup in marketing. The last year or two has been kind of boring with not much changing, just little like algorithm tweaks here and there. But I think 2023 has a lot to offer. And I think if you're in Marcom, I think we're going to have a busy year, you guys. A lot's changing, even if we don't want video, which I hate video. Even though I'm on video right now, I don't do short form video. I should. It's just the idea of being on video just terrifies me and is terrible. And I get the irony that right now I'm on video, but this is part of my job and I have a boss and I do as the boss says. And now the boss says to go to the next topic, and that's what I'm going to do. Also, thank you everybody who tuned in on Friday and made it through my coughing session. What I didn't tell you is that I had pizza for lunch dinner, and it gave me really bad acid reflux, and some stuff happened while on air that I had to like get rid of really quickly, and so it just made me cough the rest of the show. So thank you so much for hanging in there. And that was embarrassing. I don't get embarrassed easily, but knowing that there's vomit in my throat does kind of embarrass me. Okay, next topic you can read on theamericangenius.com/housing. This one's really fascinating to me. Apple is being sued over the safety of their AirTags, and you can see the picture there, the little tiny boop boop AirTag. Have you heard of these things? It's 2022, so you should have heard of these things by now. But um, let's go back to the pizza thing. The pizza thing was Viva 313, which for those of you not in Austin is like a really like cult following, popular, and it tasted amazing. I got super sick that night, and so did everybody else. We tried it. This was our second time of trying it, also our second time of getting really sick after eating it. So there's something in it that I think just upsets everybody here, and we all got really sick on Friday night. So that was fun. I didn't even drink, so I can't blame alcohol. But yeah, pizza is my kryptonite. It really is. I can have one pizza and gain 50 pounds. I don't know how that works. Science is weird. I'm not a scientist. You can ask a scientist, but that's how that works. So, okay, we're going to talk about this Apple AirTag thing because I think it's super interesting. It's a tiny little GPS tracking device that Apple sells. It's one of their only reasonably priced products. For $99, you too can own a 4-pack. You can track your gym bag, your bicycle, your luggage, your iPad that the kids keep wandering off with, anything. And then you just use the built-in Find My device on your iPhone. So, I do not have an iPhone. I'm Android. So, none of this matters to me. But stalkers and abusers have popped these onto victims' cars, purses, whatever, to keep a constant eye on them. And I know this is something people are concerned about. I don't know if you watched Hey Siri, where are my kids at? I don't know if anybody, tell me in the comments if you do, but we loved Live PD, which we still call PD Live. And they now are, again, they're back. It's called On Patrol Live and OP Live instead of PD Live or Live PD. We called it PD Live. But OP Live has had more than once in the past couple weeks where people have called officers out and said, I found this tracker on my car. Like it's usually an AirTag. And one guy called and said, I found this. I don't understand why this is on there. And what's funny to me, and not funny, I feel bad for this dum-dum, but he called them out, and then the cops could smell stuff from his car, and they just uncovered all sorts of drugs. It was like, dude, you called the cops to your car and then gave them consent to search your car for other AirTags, and all your drugs were in there. You dummy dumb. But another time, a couple called and were like, there's this tracker in our car, in the actual car, not like under the wheel well, but like in the actual car. That one was a weird one. But my point is that It's been on OP Live, like when you're watching cops doing their job. It's a part of their lexicon now. Like they know what it is and how it works, but they can't really. The police don't have a mechanism to where they can take the GPS tracker and determine like whose it is. Now, if they took it to Apple, could they determine? Yeah, probably. Are they going to do that? No. The cop, now I can tell you, if you call a cop, I've seen it enough on TV live. If you call them, they're going to be like, oh, so do you have any beef with anybody? And that's the investigation is like, oh, well, I don't know. Do you want us to destroy it for you? That's the end outcome is they'll destroy it for you. But there's not really any investigation into like, why is this in my car? Who put this here? Like if you asked me who put it in my car, like let's say somebody put one on my wheel well right now, I would have no idea. I would have no clue. It could be literally anybody. I have no idea. I've been married to the same person for 80 years, so it's not like I have beef with any exes or anything. That's bananas. I would have no idea. But I do want to point out if you've never had a stalker, it is not a laughing matter. I've told you on other episodes before about what happened to me in college, and what it does to you is for the surrounding time period that it happens to you, every sound around you, it's not just like, oh, I need to like look out. Now I'm just alert. And if I hear something, I'm aware. I'm always around aware of my surroundings. I have self-defense training. These are things that like you learn over time. But when you're going through it and somebody is stalking you, every sound gives you an immediate adrenaline rush of fear. It's not just like, oh, what is that? Your body reacts and it is terrifying. You know that that person is right there and they're going to get you. Like it is like being in a horror movie at all times. Everything is scary. Everything wakes you up when you're being stalked. Like it is legitimately terrifying. So I don't want to minimize any of that when I'm talking about this because I haven't been through it with like an abuser or anything like that. Like I said, I've been married for 85 years to the same person. But yeah, you should be able to dust for fingerprints, run it through a system. They don't do that though. They literally look at you like you're dumb. And the several times that I've seen it on these shows, like I'm sure there are police officers that would make that an option. But from what I've seen, it's been a kind of like, what do you want us to do about it? Like, we'll destroy it for you. Okay. Can we look for other ones around the car, please? Would that be cool? Um, actually, wrong. So yeah, I mean, there are things law enforcement could do. If it's a high profile person, they probably would, honestly. But if it's just you or me, they don't. It's not that they don't care. It's just they don't have the resources or the time. Like they need to get to the shooting. Like that's a little more important, right? So they have to prioritize. It's just not a priority. So the lawsuit. Let's talk about the lawsuit, what it centers on. It centers on stalking, people using it to stalk victims. But the problem that I see is is that AirTags aren't unique. There are tons of tiny just go on Amazon and just look at tracker. They've gotten smaller over time. AirTags are not unique. And the lawsuit wants them to add protection so that iPhone users are alerted if they're being tracked. But I don't see how that keeps Android users that are being stalked safe. I don't see that it keeps anyone safe from non-Apple tracking devices. So I really don't think this lawsuit has merit, truly. And I want it to. I've been a victim of stalking. It is terrifying. Thank God they didn't have anything like that when I was going through it. Otherwise, I would have definitely been tracked. But there is a real answer. So the real answer, and some of y'all are going to laugh at this because you know I'm not a big fan, but it's legislation. I'm not a fan, but sometimes it's necessary. Now, I don't have hope for federal legislation, and here's why. It would likely fall under the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1934, which has not been updated since 1996. So before we even had smartphones, the Federal Telecommunications Act doesn't even legislate anything. So I don't have any hope for federal legislation, but I do think states and local municipalities could take note of this lawsuit, and it's an opportunity to lump these devices into stalking laws, which is the only way I see any positive outcome for this. I think that if a stalker is found to have used a tracking device on somebody, or like logged into their Find My device illegally because they're not the user, so they're violating terms of service. I think that having heavier penalties for people that use those is really probably the only way to do anything about it. And some of this may sound silly, but think about somebody who you are scared of or you don't know, and yeah, like what is the legislation? Like what if you are not in a relationship or haven't been in one? Like, or like, what are the penalties? I think is something very interesting. Oh, that's interesting. You dropped your wallet in the parking lot at Hancock Center and AirTag found it. See, that's a good use. And I think most of the uses are pretty good. Like, where's my luggage? I don't know. I flew once to Spain and my luggage ended up in Brazil. So you tell me, it took them days to tell me where it was. But yeah, this is a problem. And I'm not trying to minimize it, but I really think the only opportunity for any resolution is not in this lawsuit. I don't think this lawsuit's going to go anywhere, but it could be used to show local municipalities, hey, if we lumped these and had really harsh penalties on people that used these to hurt each other, I think that's probably the only way that it can be used. But oh, that's pretty big. Could somebody swallow an AirTag? I mean, most of us have on like watches or whatever. I mean, that's one good thing of the smartwatches of being able to be tracked down. But there's so many different trackers. I don't think this lawsuit's going to really help that, and I'm bummed about that because I want there to be harsh penalties. But I'll tell you, what I do have hope for is if they can legislate this as part of like any of the kidnapping, like you said, legislate it criminally instead of in the civil cases. I really have hope for that. I'll tell you, I'm not going to name names or anything, but one of my high school friends who I stayed friends with in college, her boyfriend abused her. Like we all saw it, but there was one time that she was texting us, and this was before smartphones, but we did have like the flip text phones in college. She was texting us that he was holding her in his dorm room, in his private dorm, and wouldn't let her out. And so a group of us, what did we do? We went over and knocked on the door, and we were like, "Hey!" And we're like yelling her name, and we could hear her crying, but he was like, she's fine. She's not coming out. And she knew that she'd get hit again if she made any noise or said anything. And so we just couldn't get him out. We had to end up calling the cops. But there were so many issues like that with this one specific case that when it finally went to court, and it did, the only thing they got him on, even though there were witnesses, even though there were police witnesses, even though there was like an extensive multi-year history of physical abuse and hospitalizations, he got one charge for a terroristic threat because one of the recorded phone calls where he threatened to kill her, only one of them sounded kind of scary to a judge. And there wasn't this case was not in front of a trial. This was in front of just a judge. But to have years of that, so the point is, it is very difficult to get convictions in these cases of abuse and stalking or anything like that. There's a lot of he said, she said. But I think these AirTag is really clear cut. You can't say you're not stalking me if I don't know you and you put an AirTag on my car and you know where I am at all times. That's scary. So I don't know how it is in other states, but I know in Texas the conviction rate is very low. And it is the same with rape, abuse, stalking, things like that, which is why they're very underreported. If you've had a friend go through it, you're like, why would I subject myself to that? I'm just going to move on. That's why a lot of it. It's not even like it's not the police that don't take you seriously. They're there like ready to fight for you, but it's often the judges are like, what do you want me to do about it? I want you to put this physical abuser in jail because they beat the shit out of one of my friends for a decade. And we all saw it and the police saw it. He did it in front of cops, you guys. So, the AirTag thing I think is really interesting. It is a good way for technology to be used because, yeah, I'm missing my stuff half the time. And it's great for like dementia patients that wander off, things like that. There are really, really good uses for this. But this lawsuit and you can read about it if you missed this, you can read about it on theamericangenius.com/housing. That's what the image looks like. So you can find the story. I don't think this lawsuit's going to do anything, and I'm really mad about that because I think it's lawyers that are taking money from people and trying to do a class action lawsuit that's going to get them a lot of money and everybody else will get $5, and that doesn't help anything. It has to be legislated. I hate legislation of everything. I don't think everything needs to have like a rule and the government be involved, but in this case, I think that if you lump it in with these stalking laws as a punishment, a criminal punishment for using things like air tags, I think we might actually see some traction with mitigating the use of them for that. I mean, if there's no penalty, right, what would stop somebody from using it, right? Nothing. So we'll see where that goes. I'll keep y'all updated as we see where the lawsuit goes, but I don't think it's going anywhere. And I don't think Federal Telecommunications Act is going to be helpful for that either. So we'll see. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is crypto. Raise your hand if you know what crypto is. Cryptocurrencies. You betcha. Okay. Ooh, I like that. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Thank you, Paul. Good suggestion. Okay, so April Bingham, who's one of my favorite writers on the planet, wrote on theamericangenius.com and asked, is the crypto FTX failure contagious? Now, I'm not going to do a history lesson. You can read about it in April's story. But we're going to talk about just in general what the ripple effect of FTX has been, which BT dubs, did you see? I got a text last night from Dad, who I learned all my crypto stuff from, that Ding Dong from FTX is arrested. And so I think he's going to actually be, I guess they do want him to testify in person. That's today, right? Or is it tomorrow? I think it's today. The problem that we have is that the FTX, it's starting to crumble. Yeah, I don't want to talk about Ethereum because we had a lot of it and had to. As a lot of small business owners, you have to get rid of assets to keep a company afloat during a global pandemic where most of your income is cut. But we had a theory going into it, and were advised by my dad, who is like read every white paper on every cryptocurrency known to man, which investors didn't do for FTX, which is bananas to me. I'm not going to do the whole like what all this is, but I wanted to talk about the idea, is the failure contagious? And April reviews kind of what is failing about crypto in general. And I would add to it, I'm not going to do the whole history lesson. You can go read the story and her analysis. But what is interesting to me is I don't think there's a failure. I do think April's analysis that it's kind of a domino effect is true. The big question is cryptocurrency going to stick around? I think the big ones that are blockchain based, like Ethereum, I think the big ones will stick around, Bitcoin, Ethereum. But I think all these dozens and hundreds of little tiny cryptocurrencies that took money from people and, oh no, now it's not worth anything. We all kind of saw that coming. And so the idea that like, oh no, cryptocurrency's failing and it's crumbling, I think is really weird. We kind of got out of it a while back, made good money, and that was it. But we had the theory, and this was the theory among most people in the early days of it, is you don't put your entire life savings into it. It's fun money. It can fail, it cannot fail. It's kind of like buying lotto cards, right? You don't know what the scratcher's going to give you. You just kind of like, you're playing, it's fun, it's interesting. So we would read the white papers, put $20 here and there, whatever. It was fun. It was especially fun when you would put $20 into something and in a week you could pull out 1,000. Was that realistic? Should it have been legislated? Not realistic, should not have been legislated. I think that a lot of traditional news orgs are yelling for legislation because A, they don't really understand it, and B, this is a push for legislation. Yeah, Bitcoin has just zoop. That's one of those things you just throw like $5 here, $20 there. You can even do it on like the Robinhood app now. You can buy Bitcoin. I don't know what else you can buy. I just know you can buy Bitcoin. And it's in like an actual app that generates your tax forms for you. So it's all legit, right? The problem with crypto is the way it started led to people that led to FTX. There were a lot of dum-dums that saw money being made, jumped in without any research, threw money at it without research, and lost out because you have them falling. So I just wanted to come on here and give my very unimportant opinion, which is I don't think crypto is dying. I think that the smaller cryptocurrencies will fade out or fade out. The legitimate ones will fade out. I think some of the smaller, or you will have more scams like this one unveiled. There are others, not all cryptocurrencies, especially if they're, based in other countries, or you have to fake that you live in another country in order to buy it. There are a bunch of those. I think they're kind of scammy. But if you put 20 bucks in and got 1,000 and bounced, is what it is, man. But I don't think the dominoes are falling. I think that we're moving towards regulation, and there are a lot of people that think it should be regulated, which if you know anything about crypto, that was the whole point, was having an unregulated monetary option that federal governments couldn't come in and manipulate like they do fiat. So, anybody that's interested in investing, you can invest in Sam Coin. He'll give you his personal bank account number, and he'll thank you by saying, "Here is my face on a coin." One coin. And it's not even gonna be metal. It's gonna be like a chocolate, like Christmas coin. Like it's gonna be chocolate. So crypto's in a little bit of trouble, I think, because it is headed towards legislation. And so I think when that happens, you'll have the mainstream ones stick around, Bitcoin, Ethereum, things like that. I just think the smaller ones won't survive that. And that's all about crypto. I'm not talking about Sam Bankman-Fried today. We'll dive into it in depth if you want to later on a separate episode, maybe dedicated just to him. But let's see how his testimony goes, because I think that's where the real meat is going to be, because his whole like, I'm sorry show is not convincing anyone. Well, I mean, some people are like, oh, he means it. He's a good guy. Who cares if he's a good guy? Like, he's a fraud, just like many others in crypto, which is why I'm mad, because I actually think it's a really cool concept. And anything that's cool that you can make money at, you're always going to have fraudsters and scammers. It's just the way it is. Okay, raise your hand if you work remotely, because I do, and I am feral. Just kidding. I was born feral. Remote work didn't do that to me. But we've been remote for a long time, and I love it. And we're going to talk about productivity, because if you work remotely or want to work remotely, or if you employ people remotely, or you do and you don't want to, let's talk about some of y'all are saying some stuff I'm not going to put on the screen, but good job. There is huge friction that remains between traditional management practices and remote workers. Many people say that they never intend on going back into an office under any condition. They'll even take a pay cut. And we still see a lot of that. I will say we've been running a list of people that have been recently laid off, and sending those individuals to recruiters. It's just a free thing that we're just trying to help. And I've been really surprised at how many people, I would say more than 50%, have said they're willing to work on site or hybrid. And I would say probably about 25, 30%. This is just a gut. This isn't science, but like 25, 30% have said that they'll work on site, no questions. And so even though there's this idea that no one in tech is ever going back into an office, when you've just gotten laid off and you need the work, you might reevaluate your willingness. I think employers know that, and they're hoping to take advantage of that. But the truth is that remote work has not made people unproductive as suspected. You can read this story in full on theamericangenius.com. But it turns out remote workers end up being more productive. And I want to talk about that. So Harvard gathered their information. They looked at 10 large global organizations. And they looked at Zoom, WebEx meetings, Microsoft Teams, all the videos. So a lot of this pertains to like online meetings, and that's what the core of their focus was. But they unfolded three major changes. One, that remote meetings are more common and frequent than in person, and they are more randomized. And number three, they're smaller. So Macy writes, quote, compared to the results found in 2020, there were 60% more remote gatherings per worker, which is an average of 5 to 8 meetings for each employee. So at first you're hearing more meetings, ew. But meeting lengths in general have decreased by about 25% since 2020. We have learned to get to the point. The new average meeting online is 33 minutes. The average number of people in the meetings has also dropped by half from 2020. So 42% of the recorded meetings were one-on-one. Something neat that this study came up with was the number of meetings that were deemed as spontaneous. So as of 2022, 66% of one-on-ones were not previously scheduled. Why do all these numbers matter? Why do all of these matter? I just want to say that we're not going to do this. Not going to be a thing. Just for anybody who doesn't know, I can see all of the chat. We use a tool that pulls in all of the chat from all of the channels, no matter where you're watching from, where you're commenting from. I can see all of them. You may not be able to see all of them, but anyways, hopefully that's not going to become a thing because I'll get in trouble. But anyways, what Harvard uncovered was that online remote behavior is beginning to mirror in-person behavior. And yeah, this study is kind of strictly about meetings, but think about its more widespread implications. We're transitioning away, kicking and screaming in some cases, from the theory that the time your butt is in a chair is how to measure an employee's productivity. We're moving away from that kind of classic traditional management theory and into remote work pushing organically that productivity is a more relevant measure of productivity. Outcomes are more measurable. And I think that's really important. So think about it in these terms. We have, yeah, I can see everything and you cannot. That's me. But think about it. Like in the terms of productivity, um, let's talk about our company, for example. We have staff writers all across the nation, and they are not paid hourly. They are paid by their story. And the reason for that is we're paying by the outcome. So I can write a story in 30 minutes and it be high quality because I've been writing since I was 3. Somebody else that may be new to it might take a couple of hours to do the same thing. And so, obviously, that's not cost effective and that's not measuring productivity by productivity. But the point is that when you look at how the world is moving, our remote staff has been remote forever and they are paid based on outcomes. How long they take is up to them. It doesn't matter to us. But in a traditional management setting, we should have their butts in seats for a specific number of hours, and that's how they should be paid. Well, why? When person 1 could take 2 hours to do something and person 2 can take 30 minutes to do the same job. That's not fair to person who can actually work more effectively and more productively. So we are moving towards a more productivity being the measure of productivity instead of hours and chairs. And I think that's really good, especially for like the neurodivergent population, for example. Yeah. Most people that are neurodivergent tend to work better in a remote work setting than an in on-site setting. And I would say, as somebody who is introverted, even, I do not miss Susan coming over to my desk and telling me about her kid's soccer game. We're not family, Susan. I don't care. I like you. I want you to be healthy and happy, but you have like stopped my train of thought and I don't like small talk anyway. So please, please, please stop and go away. I don't miss that about working on site somewhere at all. But we are getting back towards, I think, kind of finding a new normal. Because one of the things, what did everybody say about remote work? You're never going to get a promotion because you're not going to be able to have those one-on-one spontaneous meetings in the halls with people. Well, it turns out we're starting to have those. What happens? You have a kind of conversation in Slack, and they say, hey, can we take this to video really quickly? Yes, 66% more spontaneous one-on-ones that were not scheduled, 66% more than in 2020. That's a lot. That's a big shift. So we are moving back towards those impromptu, like hallway talks. We've shortened our meetings. We're getting more productive as just like a society. And yeah, introverts, look, remote work is an introvert's dream. I just can't handle Susan's just on and on about her kids. I just don't care. And you stopped my work. And if we're talking about measuring productivity as the measure of productivity instead of the number of hours I've sat in a seat, I need to get my job done. Because what happens if we're remote? If we can finish all of our stuff in a certain amount of time, we can go. Unless we're, like support or something like that. Obviously, we're like core focused for a number of hours. But if you're in marketing, for example, and you finish a campaign by 3:00, you leave at 3:00. If you're slower and maybe you're more deliberate, maybe you're smarter than the rest of us, I don't know. But you may end at 5 or 6. But what I love about this study is the idea that we finally kind of figured out how to make remote work more productive, just like overall. We're shorter meetings. There's more meetings, but they're shorter, and we're starting to be a little bit more spontaneous about it, which is kind of how I'm finding my meetings to be as well. I mean, I have like regularly scheduled like one-on-one weeklies or bi-weeklies, but With team members, it is a lot more just kind of, hey, I'm struggling with this. And okay, I have the next 3 hours available. Just hit me up whenever you want to do a Zoom. All right. And is it an hour long? No, it's 15 or 20 minutes. We don't do all the like catching up pleasantries that when the pandemic hit, you were supposed to be like, hey, what's going on? Like, how are you doing? Susan said that she did soccer stuff with her kid. Okay, cool. Who cares? Now we just get on and say, okay, I understand that you're struggling with whatcha, right? Okay, well, if I do want to hear about this, Tommy, my favorite son, got released from jail after a roundhouse kicked the judge's cat. Those are things I do want to hear. Yeah, I'll take a one-on-one about that. I'll definitely do a one-on-one about that, son. Please, yes, tell me about that. Because they're not doing reality TV like they used to. So I need some trash in my life sometimes. And if it's your kid, great. Yeah, give me the trash. Give me the trash. That's not small. That's not like dumb small talk at all. Thank you for joining us. I'm sorry LinkedIn didn't show me who your face was. That's a bummer. But coming up, we have on Friday, we have at 7 o'clock Central. We are going to dive deeper into some key topics going on. We're going to decompress from the week. We're going to obviously talk about Twitter because more Twitter files have come out. And these ding dongs sure believed that they knew better than you, and you're dumb and they're smart. And um, a lot of us, there's a lot more to talk about. For example, the kind of what is the recourse for individuals or organizations that were kind of shadow banned for saying certain things without ever knowing, and their companies were hurt or their careers were hurt. I'm not a big fan of censorship. I've always said I don't want a curated version of what you're saying. I want to see everything that you're saying because I want to know what kind of stupid. Everybody's a brand of stupid, but I want to know what brand of stupid you are because we're all just dum-dums. But on Friday, we're going to dive a little bit more deeply into those topics. And I want you to be thinking about the Twitter files. Kind of read through them yourself. Be thinking about how it would feel if the world was, that the tech world was censoring your way of thinking or your line of thinking. Because right now it feels good because, like, yeah, the dude's an idiot. Like, no one needs that. But what if it's your idiot dude? Then it doesn't feel good. So free speech really is only free if we all protect it, especially for things that we don't like. Because y'all say some dumb stuff that I just don't like, but I'm not censoring it because I'm not big tech, and that's how it works. But I'll see everyone on Friday. And please, what I'd love for you to do on Friday is before you join us, tweet, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever you're using, tell people that you're going to be watching on Friday at 7 and that they could join in and y'all can say sassy stuff in comments or chat. If you don't feel comfortable sharing publicly because you don't ever use social media, you're just there to lurk, you can always direct message a couple people. That would mean a lot to us too. We're trying to grow the show. It's still pretty new. And we are yarping a whole lot about stuff that impacts all of us. So please help us to grow this so that we can yell about the news to everyone. Wouldn't that be great? But I will see you guys on Friday. I'm very proud of you all for being so kind to each other in comments and mainly only being mean to me, which is fine. But if you have any topics you want us to cover, or if there anything you want to see, reach out to us here. We're going to start doing guests soon. So if you know of somebody or you want to be on the show, let us know. A lot going on, but we are entering the next phase of AG Live and we're getting bigger. We've made great technological improvements since we launched. And now we're going to start adding people. So it's not just my face yelling about the news. We're going to get your faces yelling about the news too. But we'll see you on Friday at 7. Tell everybody, every single person you know, tell every single person that you know that they should watch as well. Thank you guys for watching. See you Friday.